I'm sorry, Josh, but this compensation package is completely out of line with industry standards. That's what Brandon Miller, our new CFO, said while projecting my salary onto the conference room screen like I was some kind of financial disease. 15 executives sat there watching him tear apart 18 years of my life in front of everyone. I'm Joshua Hamilton, 48 years old, and I thought I'd seen every kind of corporate BS in my time. I was wrong. Brandon clicked to the next slide. There it was. My full compensation breakdown, bonus structure, everything. He might as well have stripped me naked and asked everyone to point out my flaws. Josh here represents exactly the kind of outdated thinking that's holding Titan Industrial Equipment back, he continued. His old-school relationship selling approach is costing us serious money. I sat there feeling like I'd been sucker punched. 18 years at this company. 18 years building relationships with equipment dealers across Texas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma. $85 million in annual sales under my belt. But suddenly I'm the problem because some MBA punk with a consulting firm background thinks spreadsheets matter more than handshakes. Let me back up a bit. I joined Titan right after getting out of the Navy in 2006. The construction equipment business was different back then. Everything ran on relationships. You knew your dealers personally. You'd spend weekends at their kids' baseball games, go hunting together, play golf on Sundays. When Scott Williams at Williams Heavy Equipment needed emergency parts for a job site, he'd call me directly. Not some customer service number. Me. Because trust matters in this business. For 18 years, I built that network one conversation at a time. Late nights driving to dealer lots when equipment broke down. Weekend calls from panicked contractors who needed parts yesterday. I became the guy who made things happen when everyone else said it was impossible. My dealer network trusted me because I never let them down. The construction equipment industry runs on tight margins and tighter deadlines. When a contractor's project is behind schedule and he needs a replacement hydraulic pump for his excavator, he's not shopping around for the best price. He's calling someone he knows will deliver. That someone was me. I remember this one time, Christmas Eve 2019, Scott Williams called me at 6 p.m. His biggest client had a foundation pour scheduled for December 26th, the only day they could get the concrete trucks before the ground froze. Their main excavator went down that morning. Scott was looking at a $50,000 penalty if they missed the pour date. I spent Christmas Eve calling every parts supplier from Dallas to New Orleans. Finally found the pump we needed at a dealer in Shreveport. Drove down there myself Christmas morning, picked it up, and had it installed by noon December 26th. Scott's pour went off without a hitch. His client was so impressed they gave Scott 3 more projects that spring. That's $200,000 in new business generated by one Christmas morning drive. Try putting that in a spreadsheet. Brandon Miller showed up 6 weeks ago with his McKinsey background and his PowerPoint presentations about optimizing human capital. Right away, I could tell he was trouble. He walked around the office like he was conducting an audit, always carrying a tablet, always asking questions about performance metrics and ROI analysis. The guy probably never got his hands dirty in his entire life. His first week, he announced that Titan needed to modernize our sales approach and align compensation with data-driven results. Translation, he wanted to cut costs and didn't understand how our business actually worked. I tried explaining to him that equipment dealers aren't just customers, they're partners. Some of these guys I've known for over a decade, but Brandon just nodded and took notes like he was humoring a child. That's when I knew he was building a case against me. He started planting little comments in meetings. Things like Josh's territory might benefit from a more analytical approach, or we should examine whether our senior sales staff are adapting to modern best practices. Every time he said something like that, I wanted to remind him that my territory generated more revenue than any 3 junior reps combined. But I kept quiet. I figured the numbers would speak for themselves. I was wrong about that too. Brandon spent weeks gathering data, comparing our compensation packages to industry surveys, analyzing what he called productivity per dollar invested in human resources. He brought in consultants to benchmark our sales processes against competitors. Everything had to be measured, optimized, streamlined. What he couldn't measure was the phone call I got from Brian Matthews at Lone Star Construction last year. Brian's been buying equipment from us for 8 years. His company was bidding on a major highway project, and he needed delivery guarantees that our standard contracts couldn't provide. I spent 2 weeks working with our logistics team, our legal department, and our insurance company to create custom terms just for Brian's bid. Brian won the contract, $12 million project. Titan supplied all the equipment financing and parts support. Our commission on that deal alone covered my salary for 6 months. Brandon's spreadsheets showed that I had excessive administrative overhead because of all the custom work I did for dealers. What they didn't show was that custom work generated loyalty you can't buy with marketing budgets. So there I was in that conference room, watching Brandon destroy my reputation in front of the entire leadership team. He pulled up industry salary surveys, compared my $185,000 base to what comparable positions made at other companies. Never mind that those other companies didn't have my track record or my relationships. Market research indicates that Josh's current compensation is 40% above industry average, Brandon said, clicking through his slides like he was delivering a TED Talk. We're proposing to bring his package in line with market standards, $125,000 base with restructured commission caps, $60,000 pay cut. Just like that. Not a discussion, not a negotiation, a done deal presented like it was some kind of favor. Kevin Sullivan from our contracts department shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Brian Matthews, who ran our parts division, stared at the table. These guys had worked with me for years. They knew what I brought to the company, but nobody said a word. That's corporate fear for you. When the new boss starts swinging an axe, everyone ducks. The room felt like a morgue. Rachel Bennett would later tell me she'd never seen anything like it in 20 years of corporate life. 15 grown professionals sitting there while one of their colleagues got publicly executed. Nobody had the guts to speak up. Brandon kept clicking through his presentation like he was announcing quarterly results. He had charts showing my above-market compensation relative to output metrics. He had graphs comparing my approach to data-driven sales methodologies employed by industry leaders. Every slide was another nail in my professional coffin. Furthermore, Brandon continued, warming up to his topic, Josh's relationship-based selling model represents a significant business risk. When sales success depends on personal relationships rather than systematic processes, we create dangerous dependencies. Dangerous dependencies. That's what he called 18 years of customer loyalty. He clicked to another slide. Modern sales organizations focus on scalable, repeatable processes that don't rely on individual personalities. Josh's approach, while perhaps effective in the past, doesn't align with contemporary best practices. I finally spoke up. Brandon, this feels like something we should discuss privately first. He gave me that condescending smile consultants use when they think they're smarter than everyone else. Josh, transparency is key to organizational change. We can't make progress if we're not honest about where we stand. Honest. This from a guy who'd never spent a day in the field, never sat in a dealer's office explaining why a delayed shipment wasn't going to kill their project. He was being honest about numbers on a screen. I was living the reality those numbers represented. Besides, Brandon continued, this adjustment will save Titan approximately $60,000 annually in our senior sales division alone. He said it like he'd just discovered oil in the parking lot. I leaned forward slightly. Just to clarify, that $60,000 represents about 0.1% of the revenue I manage annually. The room went quiet. Brandon's smile faltered for maybe half a second, then came right back. He didn't answer my question. Didn't need to. The damage was already done. But he wasn't finished. Brandon had one more slide, and this one was the kill shot. To ensure smooth transition of Josh's accounts, we'll be implementing a systematic client relationship management protocol. Each dealer relationship will be documented, standardized, and assigned to appropriate team members based on geographic efficiency and workload distribution. They were going to divvy up my dealers like poker chips. Guys I'd known for years, relationships I'd built through trust and reliability, reduced to entries in a customer database. Scott Williams, who'd invited me to his daughter's wedding. Brian Matthews, who'd called me from the hospital when his dad had a heart attack. All of them just data points to be optimized. That's when I realized Brandon didn't just want to cut my pay. He wanted to prove that relationships could be systematized, that trust could be transferred like a file folder. He saw my dealer network as an asset that belonged to Titan, not something I'd built through years of keeping my word. I sat through the rest of his presentation feeling numb. He talked about right-sizing our compensation model and creating sustainable growth platforms. Corporate buzzword bingo. When it was over, I walked out without saying goodbye to anyone. I didn't go back to my office right away. Instead, I sat in my truck in the parking lot staring at my phone. 47 missed calls and 23 text messages. Word travels fast in the equipment business. Scott Williams had already texted, "Josh, heard what happened. This is BS. Call me." That's when it hit me. Brandon thought he'd made an example of me. What he'd actually done was show 15 executives that loyalty meant nothing at Titan, that 18 years of results could be erased by some consultant with a laptop. More texts kept coming in. "Josh, what's going on over there?" "Heard about the meeting, brother. You okay? Call me when you get this." These weren't just business contacts. They were friends. People who'd trusted me with million-dollar purchase decisions because they knew I'd never steer them wrong. I started my truck and drove home. Didn't clean out my office, didn't have any dramatic confrontations, just left. Sometimes the best response to disrespect is silence. My phone kept buzzing all evening. Dealers calling, wanting to know if the rumors were true. I told them the same thing. "Yeah, it's true. I'm done at Titan." Most of them asked the obvious question, "What are you going to do now?" I already knew the answer to that. Rachel Bennett had been trying to recruit me to Apex Machinery for 2 years. Apex was Titan's biggest competitor, and Rachel understood something Brandon Miller never would, that the equipment business runs on relationships, not algorithms. I'd always turned her down out of loyalty to Titan. That loyalty was officially over. I called Rachel the next morning at 7 a.m., didn't even wait for business hours. "Rachel, it's Josh Hamilton." "Josh, I heard what happened. Brandon Miller's an idiot if he thinks he can replace what you built there. Is that offer still on the table?" She didn't hesitate. "When can you start? How about Monday?" 2 weeks later, I was sitting in my new office at Apex with the title Senior VP of Strategic Partnerships. Rachel gave me complete autonomy to rebuild my dealer network. No micromanagement, no spreadsheets comparing me to industry averages, just results. The dealers started calling almost immediately. Scott Williams was first. "Josh, I've been doing business with Titan for 12 years, but that's only because of you. If you're at Apex now, so am I." It wasn't just Scott. One by one, my dealer partners made the same decision. These weren't just business relationships, they were friendships built over years of trust. When you've helped a guy save his business during the 2008 recession, when you've been to his kid's graduation party, when you've shared a deer blind with him for 3 hunting seasons, that creates bonds that don't break because some CFO changes the letterhead. Brian Matthews called me on my second day at Apex. "Josh, I need to ask you something straight up. Titan's saying they're going to honor all my existing agreements, but they've assigned my account to some 26-year-old kid who keeps talking about value propositions and synergistic solutions. This kid's never seen a bulldozer up close, much less understood why I need parts delivered to a job site at 5 a.m. on a Saturday." That was the thing Brandon Miller never understood. In the construction equipment business, downtime costs money. Real money. When a contractor's excavator breaks down in the middle of a foundation pour, he doesn't want to hear about supply chain optimization or inventory management protocols. He wants to talk to someone who can get him back up and running before the concrete trucks arrive. The new kid at Titan probably had a business degree and could create beautiful PowerPoint presentations about customer lifecycle management. But he'd never stood in a muddy job site at dawn, watching a contractor lose money by the hour while waiting for a hydraulic hose that should have been there yesterday. Within my first month at Apex, we'd picked up 8 former Titan dealers representing about $12 million in annual volume. These guys didn't just switch vendors, they brought their entire networks with them. When Scott Williams moved his business to Apex, 3 smaller dealers in his area followed his lead. When Brian Matthews switched, the contractors who'd been buying equipment through his dealership started asking Apex for direct quotes on their next projects. Meanwhile, back at Titan, the panic was setting in. Kevin Sullivan called me during my 3rd week at Apex. His voice was tight with stress. "Josh, what's happening out there? We've had 5 major dealers cancel their agreements this month. Brandon's setting up daily crisis meetings. He's asking me to analyze your old client files, trying to figure out some kind of retention strategy." I almost laughed. Brandon thought he could reverse engineer 18 years of relationship building by analyzing client files. Like trust was some kind of algorithm he could decode and replicate. "What's he planning to do?" I asked Kevin. "He's hiring a consulting firm to conduct client relationship audits. They're going to survey all your old dealers, asking them what they valued about working with Titan, what their pain points are, how we can improve service delivery. He thinks if we can identify the key value drivers, we can systematize them." There it was. Brandon still believed that relationships were just a collection of service features that could be packaged and delivered by anyone. He didn't understand that trust isn't built through surveys and audits. It's earned through keeping your word, one promise at a time, over years of consistent performance. The consulting firm Brandon hired sent out questionnaires to all my former dealers. Beautiful, professionally designed surveys asking things like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate Titan's responsiveness to your equipment needs? And which aspects of our service delivery model do you consider most valuable? Scott Williams showed me the survey when we met for lunch that month. We had a good laugh over question number 7. How important is personal relationship continuity in your vendor selection process? Josh, Scott said, wiping tears from his eyes, they're asking me to rate the importance of trusting the guy I do business with. It's like asking me to rate the importance of my wife not cheating on me. Some things you don't put on a scale. By month 3, it was 16 dealers and $23 million. The exodus wasn't slowing down, it was accelerating. Word spreads fast in the construction equipment industry. At trade shows, dealers were pulling me aside, asking questions about Apex's financing terms, delivery capabilities, parts availability. Every conversation started the same way. Josh, if you think Apex can handle what we need. The dominoes kept falling. When Williams Heavy Equipment canceled their contract with Titan, it triggered a penalty clause that cost Titan $180,000. When Brian Matthews switched to Apex, he took a $3 million project with him that Titan had been counting on for their Q3 numbers. Each defection created ripple effects that Brandon's spreadsheets hadn't anticipated. Meanwhile, Brandon was getting desperate. He started calling me directly, which violated about 6 different non-compete clauses in my separation agreement. But he was past caring about legal niceties. Josh, we need to talk. This situation is getting out of hand. These dealers are making emotional decisions instead of rational business choices. Emotional decisions. There it was, Brandon's fundamental misunderstanding of how business actually works. He thought emotion was the opposite of rational decision-making. What he couldn't grasp was that in relationship-driven industries, emotion and rationality are the same thing. Trusting someone who's never let you down isn't emotional. It's the most rational choice you can make. I kept my response short. Brandon, you made it clear I was overpaid for outdated relationship selling. I'm sure your new systematic approach will work out fine. The call stopped after that, but the dealer exodus didn't. By the end of my 4th month at Apex, Titan's Q3 earnings call was a disaster. Revenue was down 23% in their construction equipment division. The stock price dropped 8% in 2 days. Industry analysts were asking pointed questions about client retention challenges and competitive market share erosion. Rachel and I watched the earnings call from her office. She shook her head when Brandon tried to explain the revenue shortfall as temporary market volatility related to industry consolidation patterns. He still doesn't get it, she said. He's talking about market forces when what really happened is that trust walked out the door. 6 months after I left Titan, the company announced they were restructuring their sales organization and exploring strategic partnerships. Corporate speak for "we're in trouble and need help." Their year-end numbers told the real story. $35 million revenue drop, most of it from dealer defections in my old territory. Brandon Miller got demoted to Director of Financial Planning after the board's emergency session in December. Word around the industry was that he'd tried to blame the revenue collapse on unprecedented market disruption and coordinated competitive interference. The board wasn't buying it. Hard to call it market disruption when your biggest competitor just had their best year in company history. They brought in someone with actual industry experience to fix the mess Brandon had made. Susan Rodriguez, former VP at Cat Financial, took over as head of sales operations. Her first move was to try calling me. "Josh, I've been brought in to stabilize things at Titan. I know what happened with Brandon was wrong. Would you consider coming back? We're prepared to offer significant compensation adjustments." I kept it polite but firm. "Susan, I appreciate the call, but I'm happy where I am. You might want to focus on rebuilding relationships with the dealers you still have left." The truth was, those dealers were already gone. Once trust breaks in the equipment business, it doesn't repair easily. Scott Williams told me he'd gotten 3 calls from Titan's new sales team, all promising enhanced service delivery and competitive pricing structures. Scott's response was classic. "Son, I don't need enhanced anything. I need someone who answers the phone when my equipment breaks down on a Saturday night." By spring, Titan was hemorrhaging at every level. Stock price down 34%. Major dealers publicly announced they were seeking new partnerships. Two of their regional managers quit to join competitors. The construction equipment trade magazines started running articles about relationship management failures in the post-pandemic market. Industry publications love a good case study, and Titan provided a perfect example of how not to manage talent transitions. Equipment Today ran a feature titled, "When Cost-Cutting Cuts Too Deep, a Study in Customer Relationship Destruction." They interviewed several anonymous dealers who painted a picture of systematic relationship breakdown following personnel changes at a major manufacturer. My favorite quote was from a dealer in Louisiana. They tried to replace an 18-year relationship with a spreadsheet. You can't automate trust. Meanwhile, I was thriving at Apex. Rachel promoted me to Executive VP after my first year. We'd not only absorbed most of my former Titan dealers, but attracted new ones who'd heard about our approach to partnership-based selling. The construction equipment industry is smaller than people think. Word spreads fast about companies that actually understand the business. I started getting invitations to speak at trade association events. The Texas Equipment Dealers Association asked me to lead a workshop on building long-term client relationships in a digital age. The irony wasn't lost on me. The outdated approaches Brandon wanted to eliminate were now being studied as best practices. At the annual Construction Equipment Expo in Vegas, I ran into Kevin Sullivan. He looked tired, older than his 45 years. We grabbed coffee at one of those overpriced airport-style cafes that convention centers always have. "Josh, I need to apologize for what happened in that meeting. I should have said something. We all should have. I told him not to worry about it. Fear makes people do things they regret later." "How's the new leadership working out?" I asked. Kevin shook his head. "Susan's good people, but she inherited a mess. Half our dealer network is gone. The ones who stayed are constantly threatening to leave if we can't match Apex's service levels. It's like trying to rebuild trust with people who've already been burned." That's exactly what it was. Brandon had torched 18 years of relationship equity in a single PowerPoint presentation. Susan Rodriguez might have been competent, but she was trying to rebuild something that took decades to construct. By year 2 at Apex, I'd been elected to the board of the Texas Equipment Dealers Association. Industry publications featured my thoughts on maintaining dealer relationships in an increasingly digital marketplace. Rachel gave me complete autonomy over our dealer development strategy. My daughter's college tuition was covered, the divorce settlement was finalized without the complications Brandon's pay cut would have caused, and I'd bought a new boat. Nothing fancy, but nice enough for weekend fishing trips with clients. The best part wasn't the career success, though. It was the respect. When I walk into trade shows now, people know who I am and what I represent. Not because of some PowerPoint presentation about efficiency metrics, but because I deliver what I promise. Last month, I heard that Titan finally completed their merger with Reynolds Industrial. The company that Brandon claimed was worth optimizing got absorbed by a competitor at half its previous valuation. Brandon Miller disappeared from the industry entirely. Last I heard, he was working for a tech startup in Austin, probably explaining to venture capitalists how he led successful operational transformations in the industrial equipment sector. The equipment business is better with people who understand that handshakes still matter. Some lessons cost $35 million to learn. Brandon Miller learned that the hard way. I learned it the profitable way.